When fixing a lawnmower, you're going to eventually come to a point where you have to decide if it's better to try and fix a component or if you need to just replace it. Of course, there's going to be other factors involved, such as cost, time, and parts availability, that's going to play a huge role in making that choice. But after a couple of attempts to try and fix it, at some point you might not have a choice, and that's what you're going to see in this repair. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Toro lawnmower, and the problem is that it starts and runs. However, when trying to start it when the engine's hot, it won't start unless you prime the engine again. Now, that might not sound like a huge problem to you, however, that's not how it's supposed to work. If the engine is shut off after getting hot, it should start right back up without priming. Now, I am going to try and repair this mower, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Now, before we go any further, I think you need to see the problem for yourself, and once it's been running for about 5 minutes, well then shut it off. So as you just saw, it started without any problems. However, it started surging, and that's when the engine isn't able to keep a constant speed. But the bigger problem is that after about 5 minutes of running and after shutting it off, it will not start back up. Now, most times this would point to a mechanical problem with the engine, probably dealing with the valve lash being out of tolerance. However, if we prime the engine with gasoline by using the primer bulb, we get a very different outcome. As you just saw, after priming the engine as if it was another cold start, it went off without a hitch. What that tells me is that the problem is not related to a mechanical issue, but a carb problem instead. Now, if you saw the last video on this mower, we did put the carb through a couple of cleaning cycles in the ultrasonic cleaner. However, what we just saw with this engine, it might need further cleaning. Now, some of you might be questioning if the surging could be caused by reduced fuel flow from the tank because of a partially blocked fuel line, which is quite possible. And to find out, we're going to take the fuel line off the carb and see how much fuel is coming out of it. But as you can see, there's plenty of gasoline coming out of the line, which means there's no restriction in flow from this line. That pretty much leaves the carb as the main culprit, which makes our job a lot easier. So here's the problem. The carb has already been through a couple of cleaning cycles already. Is another couple of cleaning cycles going to make any difference? Now, I've been told on more than one occasion that these float-style carbs are so simple to clean that if I put any effort into it, it should work like new. But what if my best cleaning job doesn't cut it? Does that mean I should just hang up my tools and never try to clean anything again? I don't think so. In fact, I think if my best isn't good enough, it just means the carb I'm trying to fix might be bad enough that replacing it is probably the best bet in getting the engine to run again. Yes, I'm very aware that the aftermarket carbs are nowhere near the quality of OEM stuff, but if it means it'll fix my problem with the engine, I gladly take it. Now, the solution in this jar is not my normal stuff that I used the last time with this carb. This time, I'm using my degreaser that I use to clean all my machines with. I want to give this cleaning the best chance I can, and switching up cleaning solutions might just do that. I'm also going to install a fuel shutoff valve on this mower, and the reason why might surprise you. Having a fuel valve will give you an edge on keeping the carb from being destroyed by the gasoline by being able to isolate it when you want to. The main reason is because I might just keep this mower as a backup for when I have to deal with tall grass, and I don't want to risk damaging my main mower. I'm also going to replace the O-ring that seals the carb to the intake just on the off chance that the surging is partially caused by an air leak. But I doubt this is the issue. However, I'm going to try my best to make sure this repair is successful. I also checked to make sure that the bolts that hold the plate for the carb to the intake were not loose, because this would also cause a leak as well. Once the carb is out of the cleaning solution, it's now time to find every opening in it and make sure that it's clear. After that, we need to do the same thing to the main jet in the brass bolt for the bowl. Now, some have told me a way to fix a surging carb is to just enlarge the opening in the jet, but that's a very risky move, and I'm going to tell you why. The opening in the jet is sized in such a way to allow the carb to work, but if you enlarge the opening, it could cause too much fuel to be delivered to the engine, which is not ideal either. Now, too much fuel will cause poor fuel economy, and that also will promote excess carbon to be produced in the combustion chamber. And that extra carbon could interfere with how the valves work or even foul the spark plug. So if you don't do it right by enlarging the jet, you could make things worse. Of course, it is your machine and your carb, so do what you want with yours, but as for this one, I'm not going to do that, at least not yet. Now that we've got the carb back together, it's time to install it back onto the engine. Now just for your information, since this carb has a primer bulb, the gasket on the front of the carb is very important. If the gasket is damaged in any way, it could cause the primer bulb not to work, which will make starting the engine really tough to do. Now there are ways to fix a damaged gasket, however, it's best to just replace it once you realize the primer bulb isn't working. Now, I've gotten some questions about my bottle that I use to help start my engines, and I just wanted to mention that it's just a vented chemical bottle that you can find on a very large online store. Using an ordinary bottle might cause some problems, so just be very careful if you choose to use something other than a chemical bottle. The reason I know about these problems is because I've tried using other bottles as well a long time ago, but to be honest, the chemical bottle works the best. Now most times I'll fill the bottle with 2-stroke fuel, but on this occasion I've got it filled with just gasoline, so I'll just pour some of it into the tank instead of getting out my fuel can. So after pouring in a couple of ounces into the tank, I'll then open the fuel valve, watch for any leaks from the carb, and if there are no leaks, we'll then try and start it. So the engine started just like it did before, and luckily it seems to not be surging either, which is a huge improvement, but the real test is whether or not the cleaning fixed our hot start problem. Now this is not the news that we were wanting to get. As you can tell, it's not wanting to start. Now to prove my point, I'm going to prime the engine again, and more than likely, it's going to start this time. Now, unfortunately, this pretty much confirms that we still have a carb problem, and that means we can either try and clean it again, or we can just replace it. Now, even though giving it another go in the ultrasonic cleaner isn't that much of a chore, I still don't think it's going to change anything. So this time, I think I'm going to take the easy road and just replace the carb with a cheap aftermarket one instead. Now, this is not ideal by any means, but as long as it works and it fixes the problem, I'll take it as a win any day. Now, I've already shown you how to take the carb off this engine, so I'm going to spare you from seeing it again. Also, this carb did come with a new gasket for the primer bulb and the airbox. However, it might be easier to install the gasket on the back of the airbox instead of trying to glue the gasket to the carb, but that's up to you. And once we get the airbox back onto the carb, we'll then try and do another test start. Now it seems to be running okay, but it could be a little bit better. I think the new carb might be allowing too much fuel to get to the engine. However, that's not our main concern. Now it's time to see if the engine will start back up after a hot shutdown. So as you just saw, it seems to be working just like it's supposed to now. I know it's hard to believe that the carb is at fault versus a spark plug or a bad coil, which has been brought up more times than I can count. However, with all the testing that was done on this engine, this time it pointed to a carb issue and not an ignition issue. So when you're doing your testing on whether or not the problem is carb or ignition related, but you don't have a primer bulb to help out, that's when having a chemical bottle filled with gasoline comes in handy. Simply put a squirt of fuel into the carb and then try starting it. And if that hot engine starts right back up, it's a carb problem, but if it doesn't, it could be the ignition system or mechanical issue. That's when further testing is going to be needed. Remember, don't just buy parts to install unless you can confirm the best you can that the part is faulty and needs to be replaced. Otherwise, you're going to waste your money and, more importantly, your time on an unneeded repair. Now, as for this one, in the last video, we were able to fix the ignition system for no money, but had to invest a couple of bucks for a new carb in this one, which is a pretty fair investment to get it working again. So my question is, what do you think about cleaning carbs versus buying them? Of course, I try and save every carb that I can, but I like to think that I know when all hope is lost and when to give in. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.